Some 10,000 workers in the food supply chain industry are to become exempt from coronavirus self-isolation rules, but that change is not going to include the people who serve you, the supermarket staff.
So, from now on, they won't have to, excuse me, they won't have to isolate for 10 days if they come into contact with someone who's tested positive for coronavirus. Instead, they will complete daily tests to continue working.
But to avoid the bare shelves that we saw earlier this week, should all shop workers also be exempt now from self-isolating if they are pinged? We're joined by Dr. David Strain. He's a senior lecturer at Exeter University Medical School. He says that shop workers actually do have a higher chance of spreading COVID, so they should not be exempt. And Mohammed Shafiq, he's a fruit and veg shop owner, and his son Omar, they're both with us. They say shop workers should be exempt, and you're basing that on your personal experience and good custom and practice over the last few months. You say that if you wear the masks, if you keep distance, if you scrub everything down, you can actually perform and stay well.
Yes,
Mohammed, yeah.
Hi, Richard.
Hi. Sorry, did you hear that? I'll rephrase.
Yes, we have a...
You got that. Carry on.
Yes, we have a fruit and veg business in Didsbury. Initially, when COVID first came on the scene, there was a lot of fear and panic, and yet we worked, because we were critical workers, we worked all the way through. My staff were a bit apprehensive in the beginning, but they stuck with the masks and, you know, with the disinfectant and, you know, personal hygiene and distancing. And because of that, you know, touch wood, we've done very well, so all the way through. So, you know, that's when it was necessary. And, you know, none of us caught anything, and we worked all the way through, and we provided an essential service for our customers.
It's interesting. You're saying that no member of your staff, yourselves included, got COVID. You stayed free of the virus.
We COVID-free, and I've had, and then we didn't have the jabs. Or now we've had a double jabs, and you know, we're all jabbed up. There's no reason to fear and spreading. And the other thing is, if you use common sense and personal responsibility, if you keep yourself distant from other people and your personal space, you should be fine.
Dr. David Strain, what's to argue with that?
Actually, I think Mohammed and Omar make a really good point, and they are exactly the sort of practice that we want to be sticking to. But the issue here is that Mohammed and Omar are more and more becoming exceptions to the rule rather than what people are doing. And I would imagine that Mohammed and Omar wouldn't be being pinged if they're masked and they're maintaining their distance. The problem comes is when you've got a big supermarket full of people who may have then been out on a nightclub the night before or been to a bar the night before where there's a much higher risk of contracting COVID. Would we be happy for those people to be serving us and potentially spreading the virus around?
What if they've been double jabbed?
So if you've been double jabbed, we are gathering more and more evidence that if you are double jabbed, then your risk of transmission is lower. And that's the evidence that's currently being evaluated. And we are hoping by the 16th of August that we'll have all of that evidence. And at that point, providing that it's demonstrated to be safe, it would be suitable. Let's say if you're double jabbed, you don't need to be, you don't need to isolate because your risk of spreading it to somebody else becomes much lower. And that's what this is all about. But the problem at the moment is that we have a large population of people who haven't been double jabbed. The restrictions have now gone. The rates of COVID are continuing to climb, with over 250,000 people diagnosed last week. And the app, until we are double vaccinated, is a really good way of protecting the population so that we can all get back to normal as quick as possible.
The problem is, I think, David, is that people are starting to ignore it because the practicality, there's two things, isn't there? The knowledge that August the 16th isn't far away when we are encouraged to believe things will go back to normal and we won't have to observe the isolation in that way. And secondly, because it's becoming increasingly unworkable for people to live their lives. They're not in a formal lockdown with the support that gives. They're not even in a partial lockdown. They're sort of in this strange mixed area. So the reality is people are just going to ignore it anyway. So I guess then the argument would be, why not have some formal way and encourage the daily testing to at least give some protection?
So the problem with the daily testing is the test itself. The lateral flow tests were only ever designed as a screening program. They were not designed to say that, yes, you are safe. The lateral flow test will miss anything between 15% of people who've got COVID when it's used in the right hands, to when we did the pilot study in Liverpool, it actually missed 60% of people who had active COVID. The point of the lateral flow test isn't to say that you're safe. The point of the lateral flow test is to find people who are at risk that we otherwise wouldn't have known about. And to engage in that sort of program is not the right way forward.
Well, let's finish. Thank you for those points. Let's just finish by going back to Didsbury. What do you think, guys? Have you heard anything there that changed your mind?
No, I mean, the way I look at it is the genie's been let out of the bottle. The restrictions were lifted, and we had the European competition, and then we've had Eid, and we've had all the sports venues and pubs and clubs opening. So people are just mixing, and it is spreading. So the pinging is going to make no difference whatsoever. If one or two people are isolating who are being pinged, and everybody else is going to pubs and clubs and whining and dining, and people meeting at Eid and celebrating and hugging each other, it's inevitable. So I don't think those people being pinged are going to make any difference whatsoever.
All right, well, there we must leave it on mutual disagreement, but polite disagreement. It's lovely to see Didsbury again. You spent many happy years living there.